Hey everyone, welcome back to this lecture where we take a look at site-to-site VPN. In the previous lecture, we took a look at as to what border gateway protocol as well as autonomous systems were. So in this, I'm going to walk you through what essentially a site-to-site VPN connection is with one or two diagrams from the AWS docs that's going to make it more clear for you. And we are going to take a look at some terminology in regards to site-to-site VPN. So before in our previous VPC lectures, we have always seen as to how to interact within a VPC, how to interact from a VPC to a VPC through VPC peering, or use something like a transit gateway. And if suppose you wanted to talk between your VPC to your on-premise network through a direct connect partner location, which was a dedicated internet connectivity bypassing the ISP providers in your network. And that was a private connection that was called as direct connect. And you had two types of connections over there, which was hosted connection and dedicated connection. So now let's take a look at another option where you talk from your VPC on the AWS side of things to your on-premise data center. But this time the entire traffic goes over the internet, but is encrypted in terms of a tunnel. So by default, all of the instances that you launch within your VPC cannot communicate with your own remote network or your on-premise data center network. You have to enable something called as a site-to-site VPN connection, configuring the routing to pass through that connection. So in your route tables, you will mention that if you want to reach my on-premise network, you have to go through this particular site-to-site VPN connection where you would possibly be using something called as a virtual private gateway, or you would be using something called as a transit gateway. But if you're using transit gateway, remember to yourself that IPv6 is supported. Okay. Now let's take a look at some of these site-to-site VPN terminology. A VPN connection is something that is a secure connection between your on-premise environment or your data center network to your Amazon VPC. A VPN tunnel is nothing but an encrypted link where data can pass through from your customer's network to or from the AWS side of things. A customer gateway is a representation of your customer device. It could be a router, it could be a Cisco ASA firewall, whatnot. On your customer's side, you have to provide that information about your customer gateway, like its publicly reachable IP address, and you have to create it as a representation on the AWS side of things so that AWS has that knowledge that I need to reach this publicly available address of my customer gateway device on my on-premise network. A virtual private gateway is a device that is on the AWS side of things as part of your site-to-site VPN connection. You either use a virtual private gateway or you use a transit gateway as the gateway for the Amazon side of things. So a virtual private gateway supports IPv4, whereas a transit gateway supports IPv6. So you got to create a virtual private gateway on the AWS side, and ASN number will automatically be associated to your virtual private gateway. And then you have to attach it to your VPC, and then the virtual private gateway is ready to ready to go ahead and discover your entire network, and also is ready to establish connectivity to your on-premise network through your customer gateways representation. So in this diagram, you can see it clearly that if you have an AWS network within which you have an AWS VPC, you have a virtual private gateway through which you establish a site-to-site VPN connection to your customer gateway. And this customer gateway, you have to provide it, provides its information or its publicly routable, IP address as a representation on your AWS side of things. Instead of using a virtual private gateway, you could also use a transit gateway, which also provides you some additional functionalities that we already spoke about in terms of end-to-end or edge traffic or transitive traffic. You can connect multiple VPCs to a transit gateway, and then through a VPN connection as a part of an attachment of a transit gateway, you can go ahead and connect it to your customer gateway device. So over here, let's take a small moment to think about what are the different tunnel authentication options we have and how do we manage redundancy or resiliency. So each site-to-site VPN connection, if you create it on the AWS side of things, has two tunnels, and each tunnel has its own public IP address. But if you think about the Google Cloud Platform, they have a single VPN, which is nothing but non-HA, which allows you to create only one tunnel. But whereas if you go for the HA VPN option on Google Cloud Platform, it provides two tunnels. But on the AWS side of things, by default itself, you get two tunnels for a site-to-site VPN connection. It is important to configure both these tunnels for redundancy. So when one tunnel becomes available, like if suppose AWS is doing some maintenance and so on, automatically the network traffic is sent over the other tunnel. And in terms of authentication, by default, we have a concept called as pre-shared key. So while configuring each and every tunnel, you have a pre-shared key, or you can also go ahead for authentication option via a private certificate from ACM. But in my personal experience, I haven't seen that. I have seen only pre-shared keys being used. But these are the two available tunnel authentication options. So with this, I hope you got an idea in regards to what site-to-site VPN is all about. What are the terminologies? And then you took a look at some architecture in regards to using the virtual private gateway, or if you want more additional features, you use something called as a transit gateway. And then we saw that by default, we get two tunnels for a site-to-site VPN connection for high availability and so on. In the next video, let's take a look at the routing table and the routing options that we have and the route priority order for a site-to-site VPN connection. I'll see you all in the next lecture.